What's going on, guys? Diddy here, bringing you yet another Pokemon trading card game online deck analysis and some example matches with that deck today. You asked for it, so here it is. I'm going to be showing you my updated take on a current standard format fighting type deck that I believe will be successful in the current meta game after that standard format rotation did take place at the beginning of September. So if you're excited, throw some love to that like button down below, comment, subscribe, etc. I always look forward to reading and replying to your comments. So starting the deck off, we're going to be using this standard attacker that I believe will have a place in pretty much all fighting type decks other than the Machamp Ariados deck. In the future here for the while, which is the Lucario-EX with those 3 attacks, 180 HP, the Missile Jab for 30, that doesn't impact resistance in any way, the Corkscrew Smash for 60, and allows you to draw 6 cards, and the Somersault Kick for 100, all of those increased by 1 fighting energy requirement. So I'm running 3 of those in this deck. I'm also running one of the Baby Landorus's. Unfortunately, we did lose its bigger brother after that rotation that I mentioned earlier did take effect. However, still a very good card that I believe this deck warrants having at least one. With that Shadow Power attack, allows you to attach a basic energy from your discard pile to one of your bench Pokemon, which we'll be using to attach fighting energies to our Pokemon. I'm only running one because there are a number of attackers that I like to have in this deck. So, and just personally, my own play style doesn't generally include me using this very often unless I lead with it typically. So I decided to only go with one because most of our attackers are pretty energetically efficient anyway, so it's not particularly relevant to have it, I guess. But we still have one because it's good on its own. I'm running 1 copy of the Hawlucha, just a really nice card due to its 0 retreat cost, so you can always switch this out and then just have that for your retreat to bring anything else up that you want to use. With the Flying Press, does allow you to hit for 60 damage for a single energy at 2 Pokemon EX as well, so you can imagine that with a Muscle Band and a Strong Energy in a Fighting Stadium, you're already hitting for 120 damage for a single energy on a Pokemon EX, which is pretty awesome as well. So I've been known to use this to finish off matches from time to time, which is pretty awesome. Now, standard from the other fighting deck that I showed you earlier, I'm running a 2-1-2 line of the Machamp with that Fighting Fury ability that allows all of your fighting type Pokemon's attacks to be increased by 20 damage, which is really awesome. So if we can get 2 of those out, that's an additional 40 damage to all of our attacks from those Pokemon as well. So Fighting Stadiums I mentioned in the Muscle Band and the Strong Energy, I'm assuming you're pretty much familiar with these, but each of those increases your damage of fighting type Pokemon's attacks by 20, of the Fighting Stadium only 2 opposing Pokemon EX though. And then the last attacker that I'm running in this deck is 2-2 line of the Meditite and the Medicham, which is the attacker that we're going to be focusing on, which is a stellar attacker in my opinion. I think it's really great. The only unfortunate thing is it's 90 hit points, so it's pretty easy to get knocked out, but I'm running 2 of them to hopefully counteract that. It has the, I don't know what Greek symbol this is, the Sigma Barrage or something, but it allows you to attack each turn, or twice each turn, excuse me. So you've got 2 attacks, the Calm Mind, which allows you to heal 30 damage from this Pokemon for a colorless energy. Not going to be using that too much, but I've used it from time to time, so it can be effective. Pretty much you're going to be using the Yoga Kick attack, which for 2 fighting energies allows you to hit for 30 damage that's not affected by weakness or resistance, which can be pretty nice as well, particularly if you're phasing down like an Evoltal deck or something, which does have that fighting resist. So imagine doing 30 damage, but if you have a Strong Energy, I usually only have 1, but we'll just do 1, for example, of fighting, Strong Energy, Fighting Stadium, and a Muscle Band, and you're attacking an opposing Pokemon EX, then that's going to be hitting for 30, 50, 70, and if you have a Machamp, 90 times 2, since you can attack twice each turn, that's 180. So you're going to be 1 hit or 2 hit knocking out opposing Pokemon EX, which is pretty awesome. And the other nice thing about this is that if you knock out your opponent's active Pokemon, then they select a new one and you can attack the new Pokemon again. So this can even get 3 prize cards in a single turn if your opponent puts out a basic Pokemon or something, which is really awesome as well. So the other cards in the deck are pretty straightforward. I'm running 1 Escape Rope, 3 Evo Soda, just so that I can get the Machoke and the Machamps, and then as well as the Medichams out there. Pretty nice card to have for those. 2 Professor's Letter. I find it's nice to have the ability to draw onto additional energy cards if you need them, and especially because you can grab this tool card with the Karina that we're running in the deck. So 2 Rare Candies. Again, if you're going to be using Karina with the Machamp, it's just really nice synergy to be able to grab onto a Machoke or a Machamp, for example, and to grab onto a Rare Candy in the same turn and get a Machamp out just like that. 1 copy of the Switch, pretty nice. We don't need it as much because we do have the free retreat of the Hawlucha, so we're going to be taking advantage of that more. So, but I am still running 1 copy of the Switch and the Escape Rope just in case we need them. 2 Ultra Balls. I'm running 2 copies of the VS Seeker. I don't find that we need these as much just because of how powerful Karina itself is, which I'm running 3 copies of, 2 copies of the Lysander, 1 Pokemon Fan Club, 3 Birch's Observations, 3 Sycamores, 1 Teammates, 3 Fighting Stadiums, 4 Muscle Bands, 4 Strong Energies, and 7 regular Fighting Energies. So we'll go ahead and grab a match here in the Pokemon Trading Card Game Online versus Ladder to test out this updated fighting deck. My opponent here, I'm going to be starting off with a Machamp since I don't want to lay that Medicham down and use its ability, or not be able to use its ability rather, that is. But I'll keep it in my hand. My opponent here is running a Verzian and a C-Dot, so Level Ball comes out. I'm intrigued to see what that'll be grabbing onto, whether this is going to be I'm blanking right now on what the evolution of this of C-Dot is, the final evolution, but hopefully I don't run into that with the giant fan, the Shift Tree giant fan. That's what I'm looking for, just because that would be a bit unfortunate to come across. So I have the Karina here I'm using. I've got a few things I could grab onto. I'd ideally like to be able to grab onto, which I think I'll do, grab onto the Lucario-EX, as well as a Switch, just so that I can immediately start attacking with its Missile Jab here. So I'll go ahead, lay that down, attach a Strong Energy, so I'll be hitting for 50, and then bring that out. I'll lay the Shaymin-EX, use that setup ability to grab onto some additional cards in my hand, and I don't always recommend using the Professor's Letter as soon as you get it, because it's nice to keep that card in your deck so you can grab onto it when you need to with a Karina. However, I'm just going to use it this turn so I have more cards in my hand so that I can increase the likelihood that I draw the cards that I want next turn. Ideally, that would be a Rare Candy or a VS Seeker or something like that. I wasn't unable to grab onto those, however, but what I will do is attach just a regular Fighting Energy to my Lucario, and then I will use the Pokemon Fan Club, excuse me, to grab onto my other Machamp and a Meditite, just so I have those basics on my bench, and I can eventually evolve them when I would like to later. Use the Corkscrew Smash to knock out my opponent's Verzian, and I'm going to draw onto our first prize card of the deck. Now, this is a pretty typical start to the deck, I would say, when you're using it. It's very fast because all of your attackers require very few energies, and so you can just get attacking right away, and often, due to the how easy it is to use Strong Energy and Muscle Bands, it can just quickly overpower your opponents. You might even say steamroll them. The Nuzleaf does come out on my opponent's bench C-Dot, so with those 3 energy attachments there, looks like they will be able to make something happen here in the future. I'm not entirely sure what that is, but the Call for Family comes out, grabs onto the Miltank, so a pretty logical thing to have in addition to the rest of these cards, since he's using Stage 2 Pokemon, along with that Powerful Friends attack to hit for a whopping, 80 damage? Yep, 80 damage. So my opponent did use the Lysander on my Machamp there, so I do need some sort of switching card that I'm not going to be unable to draw. I don't particularly want to use the Sycamore here, just because it would force me to discard one of my Machamps, and I don't particularly want to do that. So I guess what I will do is attach an energy to the Machamp there, and then could lay down the Hawlucha. Yeah, I think I will. And then I think I might as well Lysander out that Miltank and begin using the Knuckle Punch to hit it for 20 damage, since it's super effective. So we'll see if we can draw onto a switching card or use a VS Seeker to grab onto a Karina and grab a switching card, something like that. An Escape Rope would be nice. I did draw onto the Medicham though, which is very nice, so I'll go ahead and attach a Strong Energy to that. And again, just use the Knuckle Punch to hit for an additional 20 damage. Biding my time as hopefully it will draw into the next card next turn. Abiding, of course, the pun, just because C-Dot's, one of C-Dot's signature moves is Bide. Nerd alert. So my turn, my opponent still is unable to do anything. He did lay the Force of Giant Plants though, so I'm going to go ahead and lay another Fighting Stadium down, and I did draw onto the Evo Soda, so I'll be able to draw onto a Machoke. Probably should have attached it to that one, but I don't think it really matters, since I will just go ahead, attach an energy there, and then use the Beat Down to hit for 80 and knock out that Pokemon there. So my opponent's still stalling for time by sending out another C-Dot, and what I can do in my next turn is lay that Machamp down, and then I can finally use that Sycamore, since I didn't particularly want to discard that Machamp, so then I will be able to draw onto some additional cards, and will most likely be able to draw onto the cards that I'm looking for in my next turn here. So still drawing onto those basic Pokemon with that Call for Family of the C-Dot. Now, I'm in an interesting position that I don't usually face, where I actually have a powered up, or almost powered up Machamp here. So what I think I will do is actually just keep that as my primary attacker, because its Fighting Fury does affect its own Machamp Crush, so I'll be hitting for 120 damage or more if I do attach a strong energy to it. I did draw onto another energy though, so I will just go ahead and attach these muscle bands to my Medicham and Lucario respectively. And since I did already use a supporter, there's no reason for me to play the VS Seeker right now, but my Machamp Crush here is going to be hitting for 120 damage, knocking out that C-Dot and allowing us to draw into our third prize card. So my opponent finally decides to send out that Nuzleaf. With the VS Seeker probably going to be drawn onto a Sycamore here, or the Lysander rather. I guess they don't have anything else in their discard pile, so my opponent's deck is pretty slow to face, or slow to get running here. Wondering if my opponent, or if I just haven't used this deck enough and I'm still low on the ladder, or what the situation is, but this isn't much of a struggle, I guess. I do have the Birch's Observations. I guess I'll just play that. No sense not doing so. Machamp Crush is going to allow us to OHKO that Nuzleaf as well, so my opponent really needs to make something happen here. Hopefully they can draw onto a Sycamore or something to make this game a bit competitive, otherwise I'm just going to have stomped all over their deck. So, sorry, crazy trainee. VS Seeker is going to be bringing out another one of my Pokemon, probably that Medicham again. A bit unfortunate as I don't have a regular... Oh, brings out the Machamp. I mean, it doesn't really matter because I do have the VS Seeker, which will allow me to grab onto a Karina and an Escape Rope, so that's what I will be looking for right now. Now, actually, I'm going to attach a second Strong Energy to that Medicham, which is going to allow us to for ridiculous amounts of damage. Draw into the Machamp here, as well as an Escape Rope. I could have drawn into the Rare Candy as well, but then I wouldn't have been able to attack this turn, but I would have been able to get a second Machamp out, which would have pushed our damage output even higher. So if you do some math here, my Yoga Kick is going to be hitting for 30, 50, 70, 90, 110 damage each time. So I'm hitting... this will be just enough to knock out the Virizion, and then my final attack will be able to knock out my opponent's final card, or allowing us to draw into our final prize card and winning the game there. So, also new VS versus ladders just came out today, so definitely be playing if you want to get those dark type cards, like 2 Evoltal EXs and other good things like Ancient Origins packs, which is pretty awesome, I must say. I mean, I already have 3 of those Evoltals, but I might as well grab another one, and then I can trade one of my other ones off or something. So I'm going to go ahead and find another match here in the Pokemon Trading Card Game Online, see if we can better show off just how quickly this deck can beat down your opponent's deck. So my opponent going to be starting first here. Now, this is the situation that I was describing earlier, where I do have the Baby Landorus in my hand right off the bat. So what I think I will do is use that as my active Pokemon, just because I can maybe draw into an Ultra Ball or something, discard some basic energies, and then use the Shadow Power to attach those to my bench Pokemon, which is kind of the only reason that you keep Landorus in your deck. It can be useful in the late game after some of your Pokemon have been knocked out, so you have those energies in your discard pile that way, but otherwise I don't particularly find it very useful. So I do have the Ultra Ball, but I want to use that to discard energies. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If I use the Shaymin-EX, though, I'll only draw onto 1 card, which seems less than desirable. So I'll go ahead and use the Ultra Ball. I'm going to discard that Machoke as well as the Evo Soda. And I think what I'll do instead, since I do have that Shaymin-EX, I'll grab onto a Machamp. I have the Machamp in my hand already, so use the setup ability there, draw into the Fighting Stadium, and the Meditite, and do Lucario. Sounds good to me. I've got the Karina, which is great, so what I can do is I discarded my Machoke. I can draw onto a Medicham, which I'll be able to lay down next turn. Could have been a misplay since I already have one, but there wasn't anything else that I particularly needed to grab. And then the Professor's Letter is quite nice, as I can get some basic energies just like that, and then attach Shadow Power, hit for 20 damage onto my opponent's Gengar-EX. I've got another energy in my hand, so what I will be doing is likely going to be attaching that to the Lucario or to a Meditite. Probably I will attach it to the Meditite, that'll evolve into a Medicham, just because the Yoga Kick doesn't take into effect resistance, and my opponent's Gengar-EX does resist our fighting type attacks. So my opponent is actually using this Gourgeist here, which is quite a cool attacker, since its Spirit Scream allows you to put damage counters on your opponent's active Pokemon until it leaves it with 10. And since I am poisoned, I see some synergy there as well, which is pretty cool. So if you'd like to see me make a deck based on this strategy, let me know in the description or in the comments down below. But I'll go ahead and attach that energy to that Medicham and evolve it, just like I said I was going to. Use the Karina to grab onto nothing in particular. that I need. So I'll just actually grab onto another Machamp. If I do get a spot on my bench for that, then that could be useful. Use the rare candy here and lay a Machamp down. And then the Shadow Power here going to be only hitting for 20 because the Gourgeist also is resisted by fighting. So we do see an energy attachment to that Gourgeist with a Dimension Valley in play. He could have used a Spirit Scream attack and KO'd me, but I don't think he wants to do that yet as he's still powering up that Lucario-EX. So that's my hypothesis, at least. My Landorus does fall to the poison, but what I can do is just send out a Lucario here. I need to do what my opponent last time was doing, install a bit before I finally get this thing going. So the Lucky Helmet's coming down on both my opponent's Pokemon, wanting to draw into some cards. I actually have a future video that's going to be coming out pretty soon that relies heavily on that exact card. So a bit interesting, as I was able to use the Sycamore draw into a bunch more cards, and then what I will do is just attach them to that Medicham and end my turn there. Now what I could have done is actually knocked out that Gourgeist by attaching that energy to the Lucario and using the Missile Jab to KO it, which would have been perfectly fine as well. However, my opponent's Gourgeist will have to retreat if he wants to KO my Lucario with his Lucario-EX, so not the worst situation to be in, although he does Lysander out another one of my Lucario-EXs, which is going to allow him to get it down to only 10 HP remaining, just like he did with my first Lucario-EX. And we see that come out there, but I did draw onto the rare candy, so I will be able to get yet another Machamp out, so that's going to be pushing our damage up, but ridiculously high, as I have the Birch's Observations. What I think I will do is just hatch the Lucario like I said I should have done last turn, use the Birch's Observations, draw into some new cards, and then I'll just use the Missile Jab to KO my opponent's Gourgeist, as he only does have the Gengar-EX left, which lays down the Toxic Rook-EX as well, so that's perfectly fine with me. I'm trying to hit for 150 damage, and with those two Machamps out, my Yoga Kicks are actually going to be pushed, plus with a Muscle Band, to 50, 70, 90 each time, so I will be able to knock out that Gengar-EX fairly easily this turn. And my opponent's Toxic Rook is only going to be able to poison me, so things are actually looking great for me right now. I'm going to go ahead and start getting this Lucario powered up, and this is why I keep the teammates in my deck, just because it can be very useful to draw onto it. Allows you to draw onto 2 cards whenever one of your Pokemon does get knocked out, so pretty nice situation for me right now. I'm wondering how my opponent's actually going to be able to come back from this. I'm going to grab onto a Fighting Stadium and a Switch just in case I do need to use that, but the Yoga Kick here coming out for 110 damage each time, going to be knocking out that Gengar-EX, and my opponent is in trouble. Hopefully, with all those cards in his hand from those Lucky Helmet draws, he will be able to lay down another Pokemon to his bench. Yep, we see the Pumpkaboo come out, so that's good at least. Things might not be over quite so quickly. But the Medicham can just be really powerful here. He does attach a Mystery Energy to that Toxic Rook-EX there, but he only will be able to use Triple Poison since he doesn't have those 2 Psychic Energy attachments to use that Smash Uppercut attack. So that's very fortunate for us since all of our Pokemon in this deck are weak to Psychic typing. Good to see that I'm not going to be losing quite yet. What I will be doing here is quite simply going to be laying down the Lucario-EX, and I think I'll attach to that instead. And I'll be using the Yoga Kick to hit for 90 and an additional 90, which will be enough to knock out that Toxic Rook-EX, drawing the 2 prize cards. And I'm sitting pretty good here. Only 1 more attack necessary to KO that Pumpkaboo. However, my Medicham will be falling down. He'll be able to draw onto only 1 prize card. Kind of the advantage of using the Medicham is that it's not a Pokemon EX, but it can still hit like one. So really awesome that your opponents are only able to draw onto 1 prize card instead of 2. The Ace Trainer does come out, so I will be limited down to 3 cards in my hand. However, I do have the Ultra Ball, the Professor's Letter, and the Professor's Sycamore. Not that I need any of those anyway, because I only need to do 60 damage resisted by 20 here, so the Missile Jab here is definitely going to be enough to knock it out, so should I do a little bit of mental math there, but with the Fighting Stadium as well, this Missile Jab is going to hit for 110 damage and knock it out for the win. So if you like what you saw, feel free to hit that like button, comment, subscribe down below. I'd love to hear from you. Definitely let me know if you like this video or if you have any more deck suggestions for me to make in the future, but in the meantime, looks like I got some more prize rewards there, but in the meantime, I am Diddy. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Later.